Peace, Baba Kilindi here. Um, Wanted to say a few things about what's going on and why things are. I was speaking with some UFO enthusiasts, people who deal with, the extraterrestrial um, stuff like that. And they were talking about cattle or so-called cattle mutilation and why is it and why over the period of 60, 70 years since the first atomic bomb explosions and since Roswell and things like this, why have these so-called extraterrestrials been mutilating cows, surgically taking tissue and things like that from cows? Well, in the galaxy, pure genetics is currency. And the cow, which is a sacred animal, is cherished, but cloning has been going on and on and on and on and on. So civilizations get genetic tissue of cows and clone it to have a pure source of cow genetics can be used as currency. In other words, a piece of cow tissue that is not cloned in the galaxy is what we would say worth a lot of money. So that's why they come down and they get pure cow genetics, because the earth is one of the repositories of bovine genetics. Also things like the sacred bull, the Apis bull, the red heifer, buffalo is worth a lot also. But these things are, they apply it like, folks would do, I got the real stuff. This ain't that clone meat. This is the real meat. This is the real cow, that type of thing. And it's worth literally what would be in relationship to our currency, worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. So that's one reason why they come and take genetics from the cow to be able to put on the open market. And the technology can be tested and things like that to see if there was clones in it and how many divisions has went on, through time, because if you clone something and clone it and clone it and clone it and clone it and clone it, it becomes weaker. And you have to introduce inside of the senescence, from being a mushroom cultivator, you hear about and know what senescence is, and that's when the strain becomes unviable because of too many divisions. So what happens is that these extra dimensional beings, if you hear something ringing back there, that's my water. That's my water program. I got a water program. Every time that thing, it doesn't ring, it's just like some water being poured. I'm supposed to drink water. So that's what you heard in the background. But so what they're trying to do is get pure strains. We have pure strains of the celestial cow, which is in the tissue of the two bulls that was buried with what some call, or who's popularly called Ramesses II, the great king, was buried with him, the Apis bull. And also the dung of the bull carries the signature for sustenance of the sacred mushroom. Now we have the food of the gods in Mexico. We have the Angkor Wat mushrooms. We have the Thailand mushrooms where you get the Thai structured temples and things like that from. Have the dream psilocybin mushrooms in Australia, and we have the South African mushrooms, the Zulu mushrooms and others in South Africa. And we also have the North and West and East African mushrooms and the Kemetic mushrooms, the Tamari mushrooms, the Tamarian mushrooms, the Marii mushrooms also. So in East Africa, the cattle cultures, those who have cattle, have the pure celestial strains of the bovine DNA and genetics. So they are the custodians of that. And when these extraterrestrials come, many times they're not looking for you or worrying about conquering the world and, making an invasion because, they want to eat people. Now there are some groups out there that will eat people and do, but they're looking for bovine genetics because that's currency on the open market and it's worth what we would consider millions and millions of dollars. These genetic records are in the records of the Acacia, encoded in the Book of Jehudi or the Book of Thut or the Book of Thoth or the many different renditions of the name, but Jehudi is the closest that we have coming out of Kemet, where the sciences, arts, pharmacology, astronomy, astrology, music, all the different arts and sciences come out of that book. It is a compendium of extra and transdimensional knowledge that spans the multiverse and the microverse. Those things that we have access from coming from the sacred cow, because the sacred cow is where we get the hard drives of the mushrooms, which are a organic technology that is utilized for the repository and dissemination of information. That's why the mushroom being so hardy, it has survived the different cataclysms that have happened on Earth, because we have, they say 4 billion years the Earth has been around. That's a long time. Humanoid species have been on the Earth, been basically killed off the Earth, and the genetic matrix has survived and reemerged out of the void of the Earth being destroyed. There were humanoids here before the dinosaurs. The humanoids got destroyed. Dinosaurs and reptiles, they proliferated, they grew, they became the prominent species on Earth. Then another meteor came, destroyed the dinosaurs, and the human DNA emerged itself out of similar mammals to become human again, because the matrix is there, the frequency is there. You cannot destroy the frequency. And how the civilization and the information and knowledge was reemerged out of that through millions of years. Millions of years is not a lot of time. How the genetics reemerged and the knowledge was redisseminated was because it was put on a hard drive. And the hard drive is a little tiny spore that can survive the impacts of asteroids, meteors, comets. It can survive in space. It is virtually immortal. So the informational system, the matrix of the human genetic structure, its frequencies are encoded in the planet. Once that frequency emerges out and becomes prominent on the Earth again, the information to get back and restart everything, to get everything rolling again, is already there, because we have an affinity with the cattle, because the cattle goes along with the humans. The mushrooms go along with the cattle dung. we will eventually encounter it, download the information, and say, hey, let's stop dragging this thing, let's make a wheel. You know, we got all this bread around here, let's make some butter. You know, we want to preserve these cucumbers, let's make pickles, because all that's high science. Butter is high science. Bread making is high science. The growing of cereal grains is high science. So yes, they will tell you that the Anunnaki gave the cereal grains and cattle husbandry to the earth, but it was already encoded before the Anunnaki came. Yes, they're still around. Yes, what you would call the Nephilim or giants are still around. They don't come out for interviews and things like that. But as soon as the declassified information is, as soon as the classified information is declassified, you'll be able to see all them giant bones and stuff. All of the giant folks right now, they figure that you're going to be so scared that they don't want to show you. And we have other dimensional lines running concurrent with what we're going on now, including the multiple realities that are so close, they're closer than your skin. It's like a radio. You know, you got WJZZ, you got WXMY, you got all these different things, same radio, but the frequency is different, create a different reality inside of the radio. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with multiple realities. So don't despair. Even if they killed us all, it would make a bit of difference, because if you have a soul and you're real, you are immortal. For those who are constructs, you don't have to worry about it, because you would just blink out and never know the difference. You wouldn't know the difference that you were alive or that you were dead. You'd just be, it's like turning off the computer. Super Mario don't know that you turned the computer off. Super Mario just ain't jumping around the screen no more. So, as I said coming in, the reason why these cattle mutilations is for genetic material, because it's currency, it's money, because of senescence of the cloned bovine gene in multiple places. People, or what you would call people, the gods, whatever you want to call them, you know, they just people that live a little bit longer than the people down here right now, because you're in you've been manipulated not to live too long, because if you live too long, you get smart. Number one, man's not grown till he's 40. You don't start making dendrite connections that are really applicable to knowledge until you're 50 years old. You start at 50 years old becoming smart. So they broke your genetic code down to 70, which is 70 years, so that by the time you finally start getting some sense around 70 years old, you're already breaking down and you're worried more about your health and your mortality than you are dealing with the nature of what you're really coming into. That's why they say wisdom comes with age. And in the olden times, people lived for thousands of years, because you're still just a baby. You're still just a baby as far as information and knowledge is concerned, because all of that stuff inside, all of those genetic memories and all that stuff don't start kicking in till you get in. They start kicking in your 60s, and they start gelling and getting mellow in your 70s. And by that time, you worried about, you know, prostate cancer, or regular cancers in every place, you know, high blood pressure, kidneys, all those things that are part of genetic so-called diseases. You're dealing with epigenetic, cross-referenced genes. You know, we deal with high blood pressure. Number one, they flipped the high blood pressure. In 1980, the high blood pressure was one number, and then in the late 90s, they made it another number so that they would get more people into high blood pressure and give them the medicine. The medicine then knocks your kidneys out And then you got to go to kidney dialysis, and then they put you on a program for medicine for the kidney dialysis and all that kind of stuff. But the reason why your blood pressure is high, number one, is because you still on your great grandmother's blood pressure from the trauma that your great grandmothers had and your great grandfathers had. You on that. That's what your pressure is. When you say you are your ancestors, that's what they're talking about. So we have to cure our ancestry to get out of the diseases and problems that we're having. Cancer is part of human metabolism. Everybody has cancer. Your immune system keeps it in check. And when they knock your immune system out with Coca-Cola and stilbestrol and chicken and different type of exotic sweeteners and fluoride in your toothpaste and all that kind of stuff, it knocks it discombobulates all of your natural immune system fighting constituents in your body and weakens your immune system, so cancer gets a hold. So these type of things are things that we need to deal with, start thinking about, start working with. We need to, people, you need to start growing these mushrooms. You need to start cultivating these mushrooms. You need to start ingesting these mushrooms. It's a forward escape. It is what will create the opening up of that non-coding DNA, the ones that ain't dealing with keeping your constituents going, replicating cells, building proteins in your body and stuff like that. All that stuff is just sitting there waiting, just sitting in the cut saying, we ready to move out into this body and become actualized. We ready to do our thing. This is the time. But you have to have access to that. You have to call it. In Africa, after the last disaster, which created the Younger Dryas, the last disaster, 12,600 before the Common Era, when 4 shards that have been orbiting around the Earth decided they were ready to hit it, and they hit the North American continental shelf of ice, which was a 2-mile thick plate of ice that sat on the Earth. This is what sunk Atlantis. Now, I know folks are going to say, oh, Atlantis, it wasn't no Atlantis and all that kind of stuff. It may not have been called Atlantis. Probably wasn't. It was called something else in a language that has nothing to do with calling it Atlantis. We're talking about the ancient super civilization that existed prior to that last cataclysm. Solon, who was the ancestor of Plato, who wrote about Atlantis, said that 9,000 years prior to that, the Kemetic priest told him, when he was there studying for 14 years, they told him that the earth had been destroyed many times. They had the records of all the earth destructions. And Solon told the Greeks, or the Ionians, that 9,000 years from when he told Plato, that was exactly the time when we have records now of this strike on the earth, 4 pieces that hit this ice and melted all that fresh water, put it into the salt water, changed the flow of the oceans, which dealt with the climate. Africa sits on a plate. That's why much of the civilization records were preserved in Africa. A lot of it was taken up by Alexander and put into the so-called Library of Alexandria. They say that the library was burnt down, and yes, the library building was burnt down, but the books and the records were taken out of the Library of Alexandria and put at different places. Now, I don't know where the heck they took them because I wasn't there, but the records were preserved. And then the Kemetic priesthood had copies of all that stuff hidden away. And they're still in the temples there in Kemet of the prior civilizations and technologies that were there prior to that. Ancient Kemet, Mesopotamia, later Sumeria, Babylon, Akkadian, you know, the Sarasvati region in so-called India, the records of the pyramids in Indonesia and things like this. They even see now from space and from ground penetrating radar the land bridge between India and Sri Lanka that the monkey men, the monkey king Hanuman, built when he was chasing Ravana, trying to retrieve Sita, who was the wife of Rama. Because they had a whole race of monkey men who were about 8 feet tall, semi-hairy, not as hairy as a chimpanzee, but they had tails, so they weren't great, what we would call great apes. They were monkeys, but they were large monkey men. They had language, they had structures of houses that we would call houses. They didn't just live in the trees. So all of this ancient information is still, number one, in the transdimensional libraries of the Acacia or the Akasha, which is the DMT information encoded in dimethyltryptamine. So it is encoded in your body. It's encoded in the DMTs that are part of the Earth's information that relates to the Acacia, which they are in trees. So this information it can be destroyed. You know, Earth, Wind, and Fire say, you know, sound never dissipates, it just recreates in another time and space. It's the same thing. The information is there. You as a person, as a personal, just regular person working at Ford or working at IBM or working at Wendy's, have access to the compendium of knowledge of the solar system, the galaxy, and multiple universes. If you just stop being stubborn, stop believing the hype, stop listening to people who don't want you to access these things. They don't want you to have this. They don't want you to access this. They don't want you going into your own consciousness. They don't want you exceeding your own consciousness by going into the records of these different places that exist in multiple times, multiple dimensions. They want you to be stupid. They want you to be stuck in religions and think that something else, something greater, something more powerful, something more wonderful, and you're supposed to be beholden to this. You are a sovereign being, powerful in the multiverse, and if you connect to what this thing is, what it is really, it's bigger than the Earth, it's bigger than your house, it's bigger than the United States, it's bigger than Trump, it's bigger than anything that you can imagine, and you have access to it. And for less than $100, you can start growing your own and see for yourself. It's an experience. It's not a tale. It's not a belief. You don't have to believe in nothing. You can go see. You can shake the hand. You can speak to these interdimensional beings from legend. You can go to the realm of the ancestors and speak to your grandma and your great-grandma and your great-great-great-granddaddy face to face. Sit down in your house where they live, because it ain't about nations, it ain't about nationalities, it's about family. That's why these folks who are hooked to the transdimensional and extra-dimensional beings who are trying to control your consciousness, they have houses. They don't have nations. The Rothschilds don't have no nation. What nation do the Rothschilds? The Rothschilds go where they want to, when they feel like it, because they have a house. The house of what? The House of Windsor. Does the Queen of England have a British passport? Chime in, somebody. Does Prince Philip have a British passport? Or does he get on the private royal jet and fly wherever? And when he get there, the bands are playing, people are kneeling, kissing their hand. Why? Why do you have to be the peasant? Why does the person who is supposedly hooked to something, a house, gets all the accolades, all the power, all the money, everything, and you got to work from sun up to sundown to be 2 weeks from the doggone street? 2 weeks from the street. I don't care what you're doing. You got a mortgage. You know, you paying that car note. Missed the car note 2 times. Mercedes person. The big Lexus person. You got the big Lexus, yeah. But lose your job, miss 2 payments, and they're gonna treat you like you never made a payment before. You can pay on your mortgage for 39 and a half years on a 40-year mortgage, and you got 2 payments left, missed the 2 payments, and they're gonna put your butt out just like you was at the first part of that and owed $300,000 or $400,000 or $1 million. It's the old peasantry syndrome where the landlord, the mortgage, mortician, death contract. Where the little guy, he loses his wife, he loses his son, he sends them to war and they get killed. He loses his wife because he ain't got enough food, because he can't grow no more, because his sons have to go to war. And they the ones who helped him plow the field. So the wife dies. Then they tax him. Take the 2 little coins he got left. Then he gonna have to go to war because there's a big time war happening and we need everybody to go. Keep and stay in the nonsense if you want to. There's a way out. Not revolution, but evolution. The true evolution of consciousness. They're even trying to give it to you in the Marvel Universe. In the Avengers, what was it? Hey, you Avengers are getting a little out of hand because you're tearing stuff up. We need y'all to be put under a plan. Captain America say, you know, hey, no, we don't have to be under no plan. We got sense. We can handle this. They want you to miss that interdimensional beings were coming through a wormhole bent on taking over the earth and destroying it, and they got mad because the Hulk tore up a couple of buildings. They got insurance. How are you going to control the uncontrollable? Let's say we have the Avengers and the X-Men. We have the Avengers in New York. We have the X-Men in Chicago. How are the police and the army going to control the Avengers in New York if the Avengers wanted to take over the world? What would they do? You could just let the Hulk loose. That's what they're afraid of. They know who you are. They know what you can be if you access what is necessary. I'm at my wit's limit when you have all the information on Google. You can Google the safety profile of psilocybin mushrooms. It will tell you that you could eat your body weight in mushrooms and not kill yourself. You won't kill yourself. You can't kill yourself. That is safe. Yes, it's psychologically challenging. And if you got a hold on your own self, if you ain't crazy, it ain't gonna make you do nothing crazy that you wouldn't do regularly. You ain't gonna go get to the top of the building and jump off the top of the building because you're gonna be yourself. You're still yourself. Although you're experiencing all these mysterious and wonderful things, you're still you because you're still you, because you take you with you wherever you go. Just like here. Wherever you go, you're here. If a Mack truck run over you and you open your eyes from the Mack truck, you're still here. You could be in the dead land with the rest of the dead people, but you're still here because you take here with you and you take who you are with you. You don't give up the sacred soul self because you float around and fly around and materialize, dematerialize in different places and times and all of that. You don't stop being you. So if you got some sense, you'll still have some sense. If you're crazy, you're still going to be crazy. If you ain't crazy, it ain't going to make you crazy. It is our oldest form of access to understanding of our own consciousness and that which is around us. And if people cannot just take a leap of faith in what I'm saying, because see, it don't cost me nothing. Well, it ain't costing you nothing. I ask for donations, say donate $10 to keep the program, keep my blog talk program going, so I don't have to pay it out of my own pocket because it's benefiting everybody. It's our blog talk radio program. So when I say donate, that ain't no big deal. You can't go to the movies for less than $50. If you want to see the 3D, it's $14, $15 to see the 3D. That's $30. That's $30 there. Popcorn damn near $10. Then if you go out to dinner after the movie or before the movie, you done spend $100. So no, I'm not here. You ain't got to, I'm not the guru. I'm your brother. So you ain't got to bow down to me. You ain't got to give me the Swami treatment. You ain't got to be, oh, he's coming to town, put me up in the top floor of the Marriott and all that kind of stuff. Shoot, Red Roof Inn is good. I'll take a Marriott though, but Red Roof Inn or the Days Inn is good for me, because I'm doing the work and I'm spreading the information. And the information has to be spread because the forces ain't gonna let one person be the one, like in the Matrix and Neo. They ain't gonna let one person be the one because that's a lot of power to hold on to when you're the super being and you can do anything you want, make anything you want, see anything you want, go anywhere you want to go. That's why it's about family. It's about genetic codes. That's why they look and have the body of Gilgamesh. That's what the Iraq war was about. Finding the body of Gilgamesh and looting the Baghdad library. Every little museum on earth got a piece of Egyptian mummy. Now, a lot of them got them Telenec mummies that ain't worth two dead flies. But them old mummies, that's the genetics. That's the God genetics that they want to merge with. That's why they want to put it in the CRISPR and snip off pieces and then insert it into their DNA, into their genes. That's what all the CRISPR is about. It's about reemerging the giants, the God gene. And when I say God, I'm not talking about all that woo-woo stuff. I'm talking about the powerful transdimensional beings that walk through the galaxies, that stand on suns barefooted, that forge a Sagala, that breathe underwater, that don't need air and space, that can't get cold in the vacuum of space, that move through time. This is what I'm talking about. This is what these lowly little mushrooms growing on cow dung of the bovine genes of the sacred Apis bull and the red heifer and the white buffalo, they ride with us and keep the hard drives, which are the psilocybin spores, are the hard drives of our information that we have, and we're waiting to bust up in the libraries and read the books. That's Papa Kilindi for today. Thanks a lot for listening. I'll catch you on the next go around. Have a good evening. Peace.